Recording. Let's see how long it takes. Got it. Okay, welcome to the IIBA Tampa Bay, Florida chapter study group for February 2022. This is our 23rd class. Our mission here at the IIBA in Tampa Bay is to bridge the gap between industry leaders and business analysts by building partnerships with professionals, educators, and employers so that we may empower, instruct, and engage the Tampa Bay IT community. Fortunately, we not only engage the Tampa Bay IT community, but all of Northern Florida, as well as anyone else who wants to join us. It's our job to help spread education and networking and mentorship anywhere we can. And that's what we're supposed to be doing. You can reach us a variety of ways. We have a lot of different avenues: website, meetup, Facebook, LinkedIn group and chat, and then our official LinkedIn page. Reach out to us through LinkedIn and we'll be able to get a hold of you, as well as on our website. Is that where our past recordings of this class are? You're on mute, dude.
Oh, they're out on the Google Drive. You can get links through all of our postings.
Okay, good. Okay. So the gentleman you just heard was Cliff Gray. He's our president of our board. He's currently running a data migration, so he's a little distracted. Lori is our vice president of finance. Caitlin and Priscilla are our board members at large. My name is Thea Raisins. I'm the vice president of career and professional development. Occasionally, Tiffany Gardner will step in here and help me teach this class. We also have Bob Churchill. He is our CBAP in residence. That means he's passed the CBAP certification test. He also has a whole bunch of other certifications. He is smarter than all of us put together in half the time. The other half, we show him up. He also has his Lean Six Sigma Black Belt. He has a website that has a wide variety of really good stuff. And I encourage you to go out and explore. You'll learn something just by being out there. I created a new attendance sheet because we were running out of space on the other one. I see Sylvia online. Let's see. Well, let's go back. It jumped pages on me. Sylvia. I've got to scroll down, don't I? There you are. Sylvia gets credit for being here, guys. Okay, is Ilya on the line? Okay. Let's jump into our schedule for the day. We are going to do a couple of techniques. Let's see what we have listed. I'm going to go over brainstorming, and then Bob, you're going to do document analysis and interface analysis. Then I'm going to go over stakeholder lists, maps, and personas. Surveys and questionnaires, and if we have more time, we'll do a couple of others. But our goal here is to introduce you to these. All of this information is available to you in the BABOK, which is our business analysis book of knowledge. If you join the IIBA, you get a free copy of this. This is the copy that we use online. And let me jump in here. I think I just lost my place trying to get all set up. We did backlog management last week.
Brainstorming last week.
Yes. So did I have that? Am I getting the dates confused there?
Well, you said you were going to do that. Maybe you meant something else.
You're right. We did do that last week. Okay. We need to be sure. I'm getting my weeks mixed up. Bob, why don't you jump into document analysis?
You voluntold me to do something too. Collaborative games.
I didn't know if you really wanted to do it, so
I didn't, but I did it anyway.
Okay, I'm excited.
I was a little
Sylvia.
hesitant.
Okay, right after Bob does this one, you can take yours, okay?
Oh, we can put it till the end.
No. We want to get it done. I want to give you credit. That way you can say, I presented this business analysis technique at the, make it sound good. Okay. All right, Bob, you're up.
You have to unshare.
Do I? I apologize. Okay, there you go. Your turn.
Okay, document analysis. Can you all see that?
We can see it.
Okay, let me make it a bit larger. All right. So, documents can be analyzed in many different contexts. There are 5 major classes of documents I can identify. If you think of any more that may be applicable, let me know and I can add it to this article that I prepared just a few days ago, or I started it a few days ago and finished it today. So manual specifications and contracts can be reviewed to understand how existing processes work and how sub-processes and black box processes operate when they're provided by third parties or machines or things like that. This can be company documentation, it can be equipment manuals, contracts, specifications, whatever. The next kind of document is things that are processed or generated by a operational process of some kind. So documents come into a process, they're read, data is extracted, they're filed someplace and routed wherever. Things happen to them, they get modified, they get disposed of in some place, which means a disposition is determined, not that they're thrown away. So there are documents that go through a process. Historical records can quantify what is going on, how much, how many. It can serve for comparative analysis. It can help identify trends that'll spot problems and maybe opportunities. Existing organizational policy documents can be examined to understand how decisions are made, what the business rules are, and so on. And external statutes and regulations can govern the process. So when you're dealing with documents, you always have to see if they're authentic, authoritative, accepted, complete, and accurate. And if you're processing them, you have to be able to figure out where errors might be, where inconsistencies and omissions might be, and when you can fill in the blanks if there are any, or when you have to toss that particular document or send it back to get more data. And that really can apply to any kind of document I've discussed so far, but it is a document that's being processed in some kind of operation or department, then generally those things have to be automated or there have to be rules. If we look at the way I think of engagements running through 6 iterative ordered phases, in the intended use or problem definition, we are generally only considering documents and types of documents in a high level detail, or from 50,000 feet, and figuring what overall you're going to do with them. You won't generally be concerned with low-level detail. For the conceptual model, you'll look at everything that's going on currently to determine all the documents that are being processed now for the as-is state, and everything that talks about and or governs the process. So it's probably the most all-inclusive of the kind of documents you are going to be looking at. If you're modifying or improving or automating an existing process, you'll do a conceptual model. But if you're doing an entirely new greenfield type engagement, then you'll do all the same work as part of requirements and design. So in requirements, you'll look at things having to do with business needs and existing and future processes, the as is and the to be. And you'll look at every kind of document again, or you'll just refer to your findings from the conceptual model phase. For the design, you'll basically be leveraging what you learned in the requirements phase, and you may be bringing in some more documents that talk about individual sub-processes that you may be building into your solution. In the implementation, you don't generally do a lot of document analysis, but you may, because these processes or phases are all linked iteratively forwards and backwards, you may identify things that need to be changed, either because of things you learn in testing or things you learn in design or requirements, or even the conceptual model. So something you learn in implementation may drive further analysis in another phase. And then test and acceptance, and deployment, you're going back to look at the details of the documents that are input into the process and read, and the data abstracted, extracted. And then you have to make sure the correct decisions are made. And then you have to make sure the right documents with the right data and in the right format are generated. And that's all I have to say about that. If you can think of anything more anything I missed, I'm always happy to hear suggestions.
My biggest challenge with document analysis is I end up looking at documents and realizing that they contradict each other. And I never know which one is current state and which one is older. So I always start out with documents that people say are current state, and then I can have something to compare against so that I know this one is the version of the truth that's current. Having
Excellent. I will add that.
having multiple documents from who knows when and not knowing if they were ever really implemented or if they're out of date just gives you multiple versions of reality, and then you try to reconcile it and you change yourself.
Excellent, thank you.
My pleasure. Anybody else? Looks like we got a whole crew of people in now. Sylvia, you ready to talk about this? You could do it.
All right. So I have a PowerPoint.
Great.
So how do you normally do this? Do you give me the,
Just go down to the bottom and say share screen.
see,
And then you choose which screen you want to share.
and it's in the all right. Okay.
Nice.
Awesome.
That can work. Yes.
That works just fine.
All right. Yes, when you asked me, I was a little apprehensive.
We all want you to succeed.
Yeah, I've had a rough time. So it's been difficult getting back into the game, but let's see if I can move people out of my line of vision. Nope. All right, so collaborative games is what you gave me. This is my outline, introduction, purpose, description, application, pros and cons, and some examples. And they're about 20 slides each because you didn't give me a format.
It's up to you. Okay,
kidding.
you need to advance your slides so we can see them.
I did. You can't see my next slide?
I'm still seeing your title page.
Oh, that's weird.
Is anyone else seeing a different slide?
No.
Okay. Let's see.
It may be our
has to
transmission
share.
system.
Maybe it has to share differently.
I don't think so.
Let's try that.
Hey, Celia, but you can just, oh yeah.
Ah,
no,
there
can
you
see
go.
it. Mhm.
Are you seeing that?
Yes, I can
Okay.
see your
That's my list.
introduction. Okay.
Yeah. So when I was reading about it, I was thinking about the Socratic learning method, you know, how he taught with
Mhm.
dialogue, right? Dialogue's important. So
Mhm.
I enjoy that part of him, what it all reminded me of. So I did watch your thing on how to do PowerPoint presentations, which was interesting, but I didn't do any of the things it suggested.
Okay.
So 75% of employers rate teamwork and collaboration, and I can't see my slide because, okay. There we go. Is very important. 97% of employees and executives believe lack of alignment within a team impacts the outcome of a task or project. So it's fairly important, teamwork. It's easy to form a team, assign tasks, expect results. However, that's not how things work out most of the time. Teams need to be constantly motivated, develop an emotional bond, understand each other's strengths and weaknesses, help each other in times of need, and collaborate and communicate with each other effectively. That's where team building comes in, not team breaking, which a lot of what I've done the hard way. It's not letting.
Oh,
So
that's gorgeous.
collaborative games are used to bring a team together to target a problem or solution, resulting in a unified outcome. Yeah, I didn't want it to be too boring, so I put in some cheese factor. So the description of collaborative games, a facilitator will lead and engage the entire team towards a specific objective using game-like techniques. During the game, team members will share knowledge and experience to find a common ground. I've done a lot of this either in corporations or in my own personal business that I have on the side. And I also teach children, high school and college courses occasionally. So some of these things can be used in any venue, I noticed, and I've used them before. Strong visual and tactile elements of the game help people overcome inhibitions, enhance engagement, encourage the creative process. Pros: bringing to light assumptions, differences, and new perspectives, inspires higher level thinking or creative thinking, draws out quiet or reserved people, may present new ideologies. Some of the cons, because it's in a game format, may appear childish and immature and challenging to some cultural and intellectual norms. I personally don't like games like that, so I have difficulty with that myself. Maybe time consuming and seem unproductive if the objectives and outcomes are unclear. This methodology can lead to a false sense of confidence in the conclusions reached. So there's many examples of collaboration. Doing some project management, working with German companies, for instance, creating a Mercedes. The German companies are very precise. They use the waterfall technique and everything's outlined. So the budget is pretty heavy at the beginning of the project, and they provide for every risk right from the beginning of the project. Whereas nowadays, with a more agile approach, they adjust things. They would build the car, and at the end, for instance, if the doors were not precise at the beginning, they would bang them in at the end. So, a product box is something that's used. Some of this is out of the BABOK handout that you had. I just use that as a guideline because I'm not familiar with the terminology, which I'm trying to learn it now, so it's coming along. A products box is using a blank box as a metaphor for software development process. Each person in the team decorated their box with writing, stickers, magazines, clippings that describe the benefits of their product. So as you see, there's several examples. The exercise generated some friendly competition among the participants. Each team member then presented their product in an attempt to sell it. The real magic happens during the presentations. Team members saw features on each other's boxes that they may want for their boxes. They can use this exercise as a starting point for future collaboration and understanding how you can take the best features from each box and prioritize those into future product releases. I had a friend who used his team. It was a global team. They were given a clay VW van and some paint. So it was a spin-off on the product box. It was kind of fun for them. He enjoyed that exercise. Fishbowl technique, using two groups, having participants speak about a topic while the other group listens and records observations to find hidden assumptions. Personally, I've only used this in small groups. I don't know, I would think that it would work better in a small group setting with maybe top 15 people. I've used this technique. It's where the people in the center will speak about a particular topic, and then
Isn't this
because,
stressful, like you're sitting there and then a bunch of people listening to you silently?
right, exactly. Yeah, I don't really like this technique unless I'm in charge, which is what I always like.
Well, if your purpose is to find hidden assumptions, this may
Mhm.
be a great way to do it, but honestly, it's people under a microscope.
Yeah, yeah. But sometimes when they're speaking about some product development, perhaps sometimes the people on the outside, because they're not engaged in the conversation and they're just observing, have the ability to see through some of the things that are happening, some of the dynamics that wouldn't, when you're engaged in the conversation. I know a lot of people will be in their heads thinking about what they're going to say, how they're going to
Mhm.
respond to things, instead of paying attention to what's going on. And, you know, a lot of people are on their phones during meetings nowadays too. So it's good to engage people with their phones. Like I could see a lot of remote work now has changed some of this too, where it's not the same.
Very good.
So, taking the affinity map, it's low tech, all these post-it notes, right? People write these notes, they group them in similarities to identify related features or themes. There's some high-tech things available, which came more into play with the remote work getting enhanced during COVID. Google Jamboard, people use that in the education. That's what it would look like. It's very simple. It's right in your Google account. And you can put the topics, it's interactive, everyone can work on it, you can share it, but you can create the board anytime, any way that you want to do it. So
Can you vote for the topics in this?
I don't know, I just looked at it today, but
Okay.
probably.
I was wondering if we could use it for lean coffee. Lean coffee is one of the collaborative topic selections, and you got to be able to vote for it.
I did come across that because when I was doing this, I went down a couple rabbit holes because that's what I do sometimes. So
We all do.
I didn't know any of these things. I didn't even know I had Jamboard in my Google account till I looked for it, and someone had mentioned it to me.
Is this
Cool.
their version of Teams, kind of, or something along those lines?
Teams is SharePoint. This is a Google tool. Jamboard's a Google tool.
No, I meant their version of a Microsoft Teams
Teams?
functionality.
Oh,
Kind
I
of
don't
like
know.
what Slack is trying to become for Salesforce and
Yeah,
such and such.
Slack's been around a while, and I used it when it first came out. I did not like it at all, and yeah, I got rid of it very quickly.
I think another tool is Miro, called Miro,
Yeah,
right?
Miro merges with the Google account too.
Mhm.
I had that, but I didn't add it in. But it goes into your Google Calendar. Yeah,
Okay.
it'd take me a while, but it does merge into Google Calendar. However, the Jira has an affinity map. They use Kanban and Kanbanchi, and it's recently people are moving away from Jira because the Atlassian database is in China, and with all the issues that we're having with security, people are starting to move away from Jira because of that. So
My company is.
yeah. So what they're moving towards is Reiki, and the only unfortunate part of this program is that it's $300 a person. So it's fairly pricey for usage. However, its delivery system shows, you can see it as project, or you can get it as a Gantt chart, or it just has so many capabilities. It looks like Kanban, so people wouldn't even know. You just have so many ways to show the data. So,
Cool.
yeah. So I have some friends in IT that had questions about things. So this is a very interactive. This is what one of the largest companies around accounting firms is moving towards. So I'm going to look into this one a little more myself. I only found out about it today, so I added it into my presentation. I figure you guys are out there and doing it already, and I haven't been in IT in a while.
Just because we're doing cool things doesn't mean we know all the cool things.
No,
So
and that's true.
bringing
And
us cool things.
that's why I tried to find some new information to see where people are going with what they're doing.
Very
Yeah,
good.
well, I've got a couple clients using Jira, and I was not aware that it was
Yeah.
China-based. Because
It
what's
is.
funny is all their resources are in India. So of all places, their resources are in India, being outsourced, yet their data is being stored in China. And that's an interesting. I don't think they know that.
Most people don't. My friend's head of global cybersecurity for PwC, so he has insight into things that some people do not. So I ran into him today and made him give me a talk on affinity mapping and what they're doing. And he did.
Awesome.
He had a couple minutes and shared this information with me that they're moving away from the Atlassian because of that. So he was very excited about it. Said the only downfall was that it's $300 per person to use it. So
Okay.
yeah.
We're using ServiceNow instead of Jira at KPMG.
Yeah, ServiceNow is fairly old too, but it's pretty good. It's fairly limited. I looked into what Cliff was and I were discussing a little bit, and that seems very promising for I don't know, I used to do a lot of Excel data management for reporting tools and things, but that program he's using there is pretty interesting for that. Seems a lot easier.
Oh, the Microsoft stack is incredible.
Yeah.
And the biggest problem we have is it changes every day.
Yeah.
A feature that was there yesterday is like,
Yeah.
oh, it's not that it's not there. It's either expanded upon or they moved the damn thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Or the updates break it, you know.
Yeah, but yeah, the Microsoft stack, a lot of people don't realize, and well, I'm big on Microsoft, but anyway, a lot of people don't realize Microsoft has the biggest cloud. Their server environment and everything else is larger than Google, Amazon combined. Actually, it's just so many businesses use it that don't advertise, you don't know about, but the resources are unbelievable.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Sylvia. Does anyone have any questions about her presentation?
I have a question, like, is any of those techniques you guys using like regularly, or from game perspective, like in requirements sessions?
You mean, are we using things like collaborative games?
Yeah. Yep.
I will use a collaborative game to get a group of people to start talking whenever they've never worked together before. And so it's like, okay, we have a goal in this meeting, but y'all don't know each other. So let's use something that will help us not only get to know each other, but it also helps me figure out who the introverts and who the extroverts are, as well as who's willing to lean in and bring up new ideas or challenges. And you can't get that very many other ways unless you're interviewing people one at a time. So I do use collaborative games for that purpose. Anybody else?
I dug it. Thank you.
Hope it wasn't too boring.
Thank you. That's good.
Okay, Ilya, do you want to do one of those that you said you'd take?
Yeah, I can do it.
Okay, which one are you going to take so I can mark it?
I'm taking prototyping. I took prototyping and the root cause analysis.
Yes, you did. Which one are you going to do now?
I can do both
Okay,
if
take it away, Ilya.
if time permits. Yep.
We have almost 30 minutes.
Okay. So let me share my screen. Let me go to that slide. Putting on one presentation. So can you guys see it?
We can see prototyping.
Yeah. So apparently I was like excited with this story about Michelangelo. Apparently he was the first agilist and prototyper in
Really?
16th century. Yeah, because before Michelangelo, so you know all that St. Peter's Cathedral in Rome, right?
Yeah.
And it was like built for many years. So before Michelangelo, they were building 40 years that cathedral, and the Pope was not satisfied because the intention was to build something magnificent to like populate, promote the Christianity. And like 40 years of work they were doing, Pope was not satisfied, cost was spiraling. After that, he fired those who were building. He hired another one, Antonio Giovanni, another famous architect. That guy tried to do like kind of a prototyping. So he spent 7 years building a gigantic, detailed wooden model and to show the Pope and then get his like approval. And then Pope didn't like it. So another 7 years wasted. He used waterfall. So in the end, Pope was very furious. He fired all of those guys and finally hired Michelangelo. And he gave him full authority for design, prioritization, and work planning. And the Michelangelo completely changed the whole idea. Like he has a even new idea how that church should look like just in a few days, because he was a sculptor, right? He built a clay model of the cathedral, some parts of it, and shared with the Pope. So he's received feedback. Design seemed to be very dark, so like the Pope asked to extend the windows, like make them lighter, because it's clay, it's easy. I mean, he just do some changes, and again, in a couple of days, return to him. Now it looks more. So using that pretty much way of doing things, he were getting the Pope feedback from the clay model. He started to building things. He even demolished some of the existing structures which were done by other architects. So that way he was like building and showing and showing some parts, not only the whole thing, but like do like this arc or do like this. So eventually he was working on that cathedral for 17 years until his death. But as people say, that he progressed way more than those previous people who were doing it for 40 years. So here we see like he used actually agile. So I was excited. You can guys, I can share this link, read about this, like Michelangelo first agilist. So I think it's a good introduction to prototyping. And apparently it was used many centuries ago.
Link in the chat.
Yeah, let me, I can do it. Oh, okay, I'll just paste it in the link. Oh, where's chat now? So guys, trying to figure out how to put the chat.
That is an interesting angle to take.
I saw this description on the default page of Firefox some months ago, and I always wanted to find it again. This may not be the same same article exactly, but
Oh,
it's
here you go.
close enough.
Okay, found it. So, yep. So basically, we have this. You got the link, right, guys? And you can
Yep.
still see my screen. So, basically, what's prototyping is you develop some model, then you test it with the user, you get the feedback, immediate feedback, and then you adjust. So those like 3 major steps you're doing, and that's what Michelangelo was doing. So it's very useful tool to elicit stakeholders' requirements through an iterative process model creation. So which is not only modeling, but also like showing the requirements, getting feedback, adjusting them, and the way, I mean, whatever the way you represent those requirements, then used to optimize the user experience. That's actually, I think, most known, at least to me, most known way of doing, I mean, what everybody associates prototyping. You like build some mockups, UI screens, show it to the user, get the feedback, and then you adjust it. And it apparently can also be used not just UI and visualization, but also processes, diagrams, business rules, data prototypes. So any kind of a requirements gathering could be like linked to that circle, right? And there are 2 types of prototyping, which I found out in the BABOK, is this throwaway prototyping, when you create prototype with a paper, pencil, some software tools. You show it, you get the feedback, and you throw it away. It's kind of expensive that you like throw it away. And there is another way of evolutionary or functional, which you have already some initial requirements, some initial design, and you produce a working solution using those special prototyping tools. And that can be used, like use exactly what you showed, the exact thing you develop, and then proceed with this. And another examples of the prototyping can be proof of concept, when you're doing some kind of a study, like you implement something and then you launch it a small pilot, or it could be a study prototype, like assessing ergonomic and visual factors, sculptural representations. That again, back to Michelangelo. Usability prototype, test how users will interact with the user interface. I highlighted this because that's what I mostly use prototyping for. It's usually to create mock-up screens of the solution and get quick feedback, and then adjust, right? Sometimes you can elicit new requirements and they can look at that and say, oh, hey, I didn't think about that. So let's also add this or that. So it's very, it's an expensive way to get that feedback on your requirements before you actually develop user interface and then backend coding, databases. So that can be avoided. There are also examples of visual prototype when you put the actual modeling, functional prototype, which actually can do something. It's not like full functionality, but it can perform some part of the functionality. So it's a kind of a simulation, right? Some model, simplified model of the solution, which you will then make it more complex and finish in the future. And that's just an example of the mock-up screen, like I did some long time ago. So I basically, there was an existing solution portal which needs to be enhanced. So I took just a screenshot of it, and then the internal part I would gather the requirements from the business, will create a table. So I put it right away. I will just visually explain those rules. I don't know if you can see them, but I will put some notes here, like right on one screen. So I would try to put as much as possible just on one screen, so that like you don't have pages of text. The stakeholders have to go through, and nobody will go more than 1-2 page. So you're showing this, you're walking them through it. It's visual. You kind of right away, they can right away see what it will look like. So that's prototyping. The other thing I would like to mention that it's important to point out. Well, first of all, I would always check with our UX designer if whatever I plan to put in the prototype will actually be feasible. And because there are some solutions which have certain limitations, you would put like nice drop down or something, and they actually cannot do it. So the stakeholders, when they see it, they will like it. And after that, they can be frustrated or disappointed that you didn't do it. So my personal experience, first check with people who will actually do it, like validate with them, is that feasible, what I'm going to show? And if they say yes, then I go to a business and show them and do it. I think that's it for prototyping. Anyone has any questions, comments?
I think you did a fantastic job. I do like to take my UX guys in with me whenever I'm doing prototyping. If the user is actively giving me suggestions, you know, we want to be sure we have this or that. Having the UX guy there to actually running the prototype allows me to not have to go back to him and then come back to the user in the future.
Right.
You know, if I can do that. It's not always possible. Sometimes prototyping happens just out of the spur of the moment and you don't have that person there.
Right. So those will, I would like if there is no like UI, like yeah, we also do like prototypes which actually kind of a functional, so you can click on the buttons and they will work. So yeah, in that case, that those prototypes, they usually require like more tools, like more knowledge to build that, more time to build that prototype. They would spend like a couple weeks maybe building just the prototype. So that's, yeah, I would handle it to UX designer to go through and explain. But then if it's something like short change, small change, and I can just quickly put it on the screen, then I would do it this way instead of engaging. And especially now we have all our UX teams are shared resources. That's, I don't know if you have the same experience, like they allocate you like certain amount of time or points, like they can work with you, and then they doing bunch of UX for other teams. So it's like very hard for you to get fully engaged UX designer for your solution. I mean, it's again constraints in terms of I think they come up with that model because sometimes you dedicate the designer, he did something and then he's sitting idle. So they kind of are trying to move them around the project. And plus this creates a consistency in the design, and they can leverage something. I mean, if it's the same platform, same should be, design should be in the same way, created the same way. They can leverage things from elements, right, from the other design, other module to this module, for example.
Very nice.
That's
Who
where
has
some of the
questions?
wireframing tools are awesome. You can almost
Yeah.
build prototypes on the fly with some of the good wireframing tools, you know, right when you're
agree.
there. And yeah, it gives you consistency. You can just hand it over to the guys and say, here, build this kind of thing.
The Borland dev tools I used to use back in the Stone Age were very visual and very fast. And I can make working prototypes really easily. They don't necessarily translate to web stuff all the time, but you can make stuff happen. It's all active. You can have something that runs and does basic stuff super quickly. I also like your discussion of simulation. One of the primary uses of that is to work out the entire design before you actually build stuff. So we had a motto in one company was, we build it 1,000 times, so you do it right the first time.
Right.
Thanks. And guys, do you like the tools I think I used a long time was Azure. There are many of those, but do you have like some tools you would like to share, like which is working for you and easy to work with? Prototyping tools.
I don't make prototypes that are mock functional. I just make the layouts. So I
Mhm.
use anything that I think will work. I've used a lot of PowerPoints and Visios to lay
Mhm.
out a screen.
Yep, I've done
Okay.
that also. Balsamic, the Borland stuff, like I said, or just draw stuff out on a whiteboard.
Right.
Adobe has a free wireframe tool. That's pretty cool
Really?
that you can
Really?
use too. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Really good for designing like pages. And it'll actually not only let you design pages, but it'll actually let you link stuff. So they can click on one thing and go to the next screen and click on something. So it kind of gives you a little bit of the feel of what a website would be. You're not building the data in the back end, but it gives you that look and feel. So like I said, some of the wireframing tools for that kind of stuff are really good and quick.
I think that would be a lot of fun to make, but I'm always afraid that I actually made a PowerPoint that was functional. It looked functional. You know, you clicked on this and it would take you to the next screen, and it looked like it was a system. And they people that I was just demonstrating it to, even though I said this is not a real system, I just made this in PowerPoint, they believed that I had already done all the development. They could use it right then. I mean, it's like they get into this fantasy of, oh, that's exactly what we want. And it was very gratifying, but at the same time, I had to crush their dreams. That's the problem with prototypes.
Right. That's why I think like just throwing something ugly, non-colorful, not ugly, I would say, but like not colorful, and
Yeah.
then the designers will do some nice stuff that you will exceeded expectations. They will go, wow, it's
Yes.
even better. So like you're getting by little better things to stakeholders.
I had the horrible experience of receiving the compliment that my wireframes were better than what could be developed, and I
Yeah,
had to stop it. And
right.
you know, I
Or
was just doing a good job, but I had to tone it back.
became a UX designer. Yep.
Well, I was making promises that we couldn't. I was writing checks that we couldn't cash. If no one has any questions or comments about prototyping, Ilya, why don't you go on to your next one?
Yep. So next
you.
one, thanks. The next one is root cause analysis. So like it's in the name of the definition, you have a root, which is usually the result of that weed which is growing, and that's like underlying causes is the root, and then the weed that those bad results or unexpected results which are growing. So it's in my case, and I think in all the what I read in the BABOK, it's mostly used to identify solutions to problems. So you have some problem or problems, and then you're trying to understand the root cause of it. And there could be two root cause analysis could be reactive. So you have a problem, you react to it, or it can be proactive. So you kind of identify potential problem and then you're trying to work on a root cause. So root cause analysis contain three major activities. Problem statement definition, number one. It's very important to understand what the problem is and spend enough time to put it down, write down, show it to everyone, and comprehend yourself what's the actual problem is. Then you collect the data, kind of gathering all the information without not trying to solutionize or anything. You just collect the data. And then only in the third stage, you try to identify the cause. Actually, what you actually doing root cause analysis. You're trying to identify what was the reason for that thing or issue which happened. So there are I think two techniques which BABOK outlined, which actually I used one of those, but I will share two. So one of them is fishbone diagram, thing invented by some Japanese person. So you kind of are representing your problem as this fishbone, right? You have a problem as a head. You're writing down the problem. Then you identify in a second stage, you identify the categories, contributing factors. And usually those factors are people, culture, method, technology, or they calling tools, people, processes, whatever it is in your organization. Those are usually the main like root causes, right, of all the problems. And then you brainstorm possible causes against each of that category. So what's wrong with people, culture, so on and so forth. So you're just doing brainstorming, not trying yet to like find one cause. And then after that brainstorming, in the last step is to prioritize what to work on first, and then like maybe identify some similarities. And maybe one cause like in technology can fix the causes with the people, with the culture. Like I give myself a hint here, quality check. So we try to implement some quality check in one of our solution, basically like collection tool, which researchers will go to the shop and collect. And like they were collecting wrong data, and like we were trying to understand like why they collecting this and that. So to cut this short, like we eventually came up with a list of the extensive quality checks, because we understood that the people who the vendor is hiring, there was a vendor, they like crowdsource, they don't have time to train them. So we simplified the tool. We made the embedded tutorial and we like guided the users through the flow. So which was not applicable in the other, let's say, countries, right, or other regions where we had more experienced like researchers or auditors in the field. Just like analysis leads to additional enhancement of the system, which will eliminate those causes. And another tool which I mostly use is the 5 whys. So you basically keep on asking why 5 times until you really go to the root of the problem. Just for example, there is a puddle of water on the floor. Why? The overhead pipe is leaking. Why? There is too much water pressure in the pipe. Again, you're asking why. There is a faulty control valve. You ask why. Control valves have not been tested. And finally, control valves are not on the maintenance schedule. So in my case, it would be, I would go, I think, to third why maximum. Then by the third why, we already pretty much understand the root cause. Like there is an issue, happened, that ticket placed, and you're asking the service delivery why this has happened. They saying, I mean, database didn't put some data somewhere else. Why the database didn't put this thing somewhere else? Then you go into the development team. Well, because of this, and then you can come up to the gap in the requirements or a training issue with the people, right? So different with a tool was not working as expected, or actually it was working as expected. It was working as designed, but there is a gap in the requirements or some situation in the field in production, like drives you to the different conclusion. So that's how we use. And another way, we would create a list of issues, put some in Excel sheet if there are many of them, and we'll try to identify those issues, put the priority, and try to identify root cause analysis. In many cases, like 80% of the issues are resolved like have let's say no, yeah, 80% of the issues have 20% like the root cause, meaning like the most of the root cause can fix 80% of the issues. Kind of 80-20 rule. So yeah, that's it for the 5 whys and root cause analysis. Any questions?
Very good. I found the 5 whys to bring surprising results.
All right.
Okay.
I like it. I love it too.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you guys. We'll stop sharing.
Okay. Anyone have any questions or comments about root cause analysis? I want to commend everyone that presented today. Y'all did a fantastic job. I know that presenting is not an easy thing if you're not used to it, it's recently used to it, but it's something that we got to do as business analysts or project managers or anybody else on a kind of regular basis. If anybody has any questions or concerns, feel free to reach out to me. Sylvia, I promise I will return your phone call. I've been working 60-hour weeks plus doing other things that I'm obligated to do, but I'll get to you, I promise.
We have one new participant, I think.
Yeah, well, let's get them credit on the list. Let me share my screen so you can see what I'm doing.
Myra.
Okay. Folks that haven't been here in a while, they're going to have to come back to get back on the list. Okay, give me the name.
Omira. No, you're actually the first person that ever pronounced it right the first time. It's Omira.
Can you spell it for me, please?
Yes, it's O-M as in Mary, A-I-R-A.
And your last name?
F as in Fred, E-R-R-E-I-R-A.
E-I.
R-A.
R-R.
R-A.
Okay. You have credit for attending. Thank you very much. And let's see, Ilya, and I've got Sylvia. Okay. So the credit that you get for attending these meetings can be used whenever you apply for your certification test. You have to have a certain amount of education credit, certain number of hours. And because we have Bob here, we all get credit for participating in these. But I honestly have found that beyond just having that credit that you have to have for taking the test, the conversations that we have and the insight we get from each other is very valuable. And I really appreciate all of y'all for attending. I invite you to invite other people to attend in the future, because the more people we have, the more insight we have from different avenues, and the more we grow. Reach out to me on LinkedIn if you have any questions. LinkedIn is the place that I keep all my business networking, because my email just gets too full and I don't see everything. Does anyone have any last questions or concerns or comments?
Omira, are you the right one I found on LinkedIn there?
Yes, that's me.
Awesome. Okay, good deal.
Cliff
So I
is
got
a
you.
marketing genius.
I'm sorry. I just have a quick question. Is this every Tuesday?
It is.
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
This is our 23rd week of every Tuesday.
Great.
Does that blow y'all's mind like it blows mine?
It's been a while.
We are going to continue to work through the techniques chapters in the IIBA's BABOK until we get them all covered. And if there are any that you're interested in covering or interested in finding out it has been covered already, let me know and I'll be glad to put your name down for one of the next few weeks. Okay. Okay, guys.
Yep.
See you in a week.
Thank you.
Bye.
See you. Bye.
See you.